Hey everybody, it's Adam, Sophie, back with another Encite Live. It's been a while.
Yeah, the usual crew is back at it.
Yeah, we've been bringing on some clients, some vendors, kind of chat with a little bit about their strategies and what they can bring to the table. So that was kind of fun with some of those episodes.
Yeah, no, that was a nice change of pace, but it feels right.
Feels like the team's back together,
yes,
right?
Yes,
Fair enough.
The dream team, as we like to say.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. But today we're talking a little bit about everything branding, marketing, creative as usual. But some of the things that are happening today in social is kind of what we're going to start this off with.
Yeah. And I think we maybe spoke to this or hinted to it a while back, but I mean, we're all familiar with the different story capabilities on all the social platforms. Instagram, it's huge. Facebook, I think it's utilized less, but it's still an option. Twitter had fleets for a while, which was kind of the same function, essentially. Those are no longer a thing. They were gotten rid of a couple months ago. And the latest news is that LinkedIn is following that trend and getting rid of their stories. Which I'm less surprised at than I was by the Twitter news, because in my mind, and you know, maybe this is a generational thing, I'm not sure, but LinkedIn is much more serious and much more business focused.
Yeah.
And like when I'm personally like posting stories for us or our clients, it's very like of the moment and it's not super polished. You know, I might throw a tag in there or some text or an animation, but it's nothing that I'm sitting down and spending an hour creating before I post it. Like I think it's kind of off the cuff, and that's the purpose.
Right. And that's the beauty of it, right?
Yeah, because it's the authenticity of it, I think. But LinkedIn, and that was their thought process. You know, it's going to take down these walls of like this kind of buttoned up like corporate culture that site really encourages, but people just weren't utilizing it. I think because when you're on LinkedIn, even speaking as a company that might have an irreverent voice elsewhere, that's kind of your place to be a little bit more serious and a little bit more, here are capabilities, here's what we do, here's how we can help you. And it's much more like, let me fix this problem than, you know, let me show you this other side of myself.
Right.
Which I just think is interesting because it really goes to show that people are looking for different things out of different social media platforms. Like I use LinkedIn every day, I use TikTok every day, but those are for so widely different purposes.
Right.
And I think that sometimes it's like, it's an important reminder for us as the people creating social content. You know, people are looking for different things in different places.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me that LinkedIn gets rid of stories, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it just doesn't seem that pretty applicable to the platform, like you said. But all these social platforms, start to chase kind of some of the new trends, to keep people on platform.
Yeah.
And I understand why they do that, but there's just some of those things that just don't work for those certain platforms. You can't be everything to everybody. We talk about that all the time to clients. It's like, we're not everything to everybody. We're very specific to an audience. And the same thing applies for social, right? Like your audience is very specific. I understand trying it, and they have the money and the and the resources to get that out and to see if that takes off. But most businesses don't to have all that to put towards it. So it's a good test. It's a good theory. It's a good hypothesis, right? But when it's also a good it's also a good teaching moment for other businesses that if it's not working, get rid of it, right? Don't spend so much more time or more money and resources on it. And I agree, LinkedIn is very much the professional platform. It's more serious. You're talking about, maybe serious issues or news related things that affect you or your business. And then all the rest of them are much more casual and fun and family, friends oriented, right?
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's even like, the same content could be shared on both platforms, but it's a matter of like the language that goes into it or the copy behind it. I mean, I'll share, a Today at the Office video that we do to Facebook, and my caption will be much more like kind of poking fun at the idea or whatever. But to LinkedIn, it's like, look at this great video capability that we have. And it's even if the content is irreverent and funny, it's like, it's still a sales pitch, and it's still it's
business oriented,
right? Yeah, as opposed to
still can be a conversation, right? Conversation about some kind of topic, but I mean it
has a little more weight to it, though.
Yeah,
and I think that's
more serious.
Yeah, and I think that's the difference. And frankly, I think it's hard to come off as serious in a maximum 30-second story. You know?
Yeah. I think that, I think LinkedIn is probably going to be better off to focus on some different things. I know that LinkedIn Live is still kind of in beta, and as of this recording, we're still trying to get into LinkedIn Live, but that kind of thing I think would still be beneficial. Live video across platforms of TikTok, Instagram, Facebook are all very popular.
Right.
LinkedIn has some of that capabilities, and we talked about it before, but I think that's something that would be more beneficial to them. And especially you can really get thought leaders in a particular space, in an industry, talking about changes to that industry, talking about governmental regulations in that industry. I mean, that would be like where I think LinkedIn is more powerful. And I think that would be if they're going to move their concentration to that, I think it would be beneficial for them.
Yeah. And I mean, that's longer form. It's like you're diving into meatier subjects. It's, and I think that's what people are looking for on that platform.
Yeah.
And you spoke to this earlier, like it's the trial and error. It's like, of course, it's hard not to chase those trends, especially social trends, because they're constantly changing.
Right.
And no one's going to stop using LinkedIn because the story feature didn't work out.
I can't say I have never put a LinkedIn story
neither
on
have I.
my profile.
Because I wouldn't even think to.
Yeah, to be honest.
Yeah. But I you also make a good point in the fact that not everyone has the ability to make those big leaps.
Right.
But I think the takeaway for our audience is just not every social platform functions in the exact same way. And it's important to kind of do your research and see what your audience is wanting out of, like I said, your TikTok presence versus, your Facebook presence versus your Twitter presence versus all of those different things. Because it is different. I mean, it can be the same content, but it's just the method of delivery.
Slightly different voice, right?
Yeah,
slightly different. I mean, like you said, it's just slightly different, but you can still have the same content, but switch it up just a little.
Yeah. So what about you? What did you find this week?
What I thought was really cool this week is, something that we're really familiar with, market research.
Yeah.
One of the largest platforms, SurveyMonkey, have rebranded into Momentive, I think is the name now. But they printed out an article that was really comprehensive about how they approach their rebranding.
Oh, interesting.
And it was all based on what we push all the time, research, right?
Yeah.
Research. But so they started this journey 14 months ago.
Okay.
So in a company like that, it takes that amount of time to really kind of dial in where they want to rebrand, right? So over a year's worth of research and visioning sessions and all these different things, they've rebranded into Momentive, right? So what they found out in their research, in talking to customers, talking to vendors, talking to a wide variety of the public, is the cuteness of their identity. It's kind of like that monkey silhouette kind of head kind of silhouette, which didn't really kind of represent where the brand is going, not necessarily where it's been, right? And we talk about this in our brand strategy sessions as well, as what is your brand now? Where do you want it to go, right? And the quote unquote cuteness is what they saw of their visual identity just wasn't resonating with the audience, and it wasn't where they wanted to go. That what they're doing in the research industry is not anything to be playful with. It's very serious, right? It's very serious, right? So they've come up with a brand new visual identity logo. You can see it here on the screen. But it's one of those things that I thought was super interesting, because it's one of those things that we preach from a brand strategy standpoint is research and putting together a really comprehensive study internally and externally of where you want your brand to go. And they have in the article, we'll link to the article as well here, but the article does go into each one of their brand attributes. And they're pretty public about it. And it's really great to kind of see that. But a 20-year legacy brand like SurveyMonkey, everybody in the marketing world knows, even outside the marketing world, small businesses know what SurveyMonkey is. So it's a very delicate balance to rebrand that, especially in a huge name change. And I thought that they did a really good job of it. And we see the outwards portions of it. We get to see like the new logo. That's what we see. But we don't necessarily see behind the scenes. And we always talk about that. But in that article, they kind of went behind the scenes of why they did what they did. And I thought it was brilliant.
I mean, that transparency is really cool. And like you said, since it is, you know, a legacy brand and people are familiar with it, I think a lot of the time it's hard to wrap your head around why those elements are important and what insights you gain from examining them. And seeing a huge name like that come forward and be so transparent about that process, I think could be really beneficial for other companies looking to do that. And kind of like, well, here's what we got out of it, and here's how we're pushing forward. And you're not married to what you start with. I think that's another important takeaway.
Well, you know, what you start with over time, industries change,
right.
You know, consumer interactions change, consumer perceptions change. You have to evolve, right? So there is, we're having an upcoming one here in the next few days with somebody we won't mention, but they're in the restaurant industry, and you know, they've been there for a long time. And how do they evolve that brand for the new situation, kind of a new culture?
Right.
And then we have some other ones that are in the hopper as well from a 10-year-old cannabis brand here in Colorado. And the way they started, I mean, I think the cannabis industry is a really good indication of how branding needs to evolve, because it's kind of a wild west and people were just throwing up businesses and, you know, without any kind of strategy behind it. But now they're realizing, wait a minute, competitive environment is so big. The industry has grown so much. I need to make sure that I have that thinking behind that moving forward to the next 10, the next 20, the next 50 years, that we're still doing well.
And it's like you were maybe in such a rush to get this great idea off the ground, especially in an industry like that, where suddenly it was available. But now you can kind of take a step back and realize it's like any other business, and there needs to be a real strategy and thought process behind it. And that's a great example. I think more companies just need to take stock of where they're at and where they want to be. And I think that's really the takeaway. Yeah.
And I think the takeaway too, an additional takeaway with SurveyMonkey is I appreciate them coming forward and being transparent with their process, because we talk about it all the time, but for something like that to kind of show is really cool and really powerful, you know?
Definitely.
Is that it? That's all we got today?
That's all we got today.
Easy.
I mean, we'll keep you guys updated on what's going on. It seems like right now there's like a lot of changes happening in not only the social sphere, but kind of like the marketing world in general. So we will keep our ear to the ground and keep you guys updated, but it's good to be back. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for catching up with us.
Are we singing songs or something?
I mean, we could do some campfire moments right now.
No?
No?
Show tunes.
Show tunes. Gotcha.
See ya.
See you guys.